Okay. So you really want to know, huh? Fine. I'm gonna start by telling you this. And this is important, so listen up, man. Your entire life, this one and many others, you've been a god who uses its absolute power to make yourself powerless. Entire cultures, especially this one, have all been afraid of their weaknesses, supposedly. When in reality, they've all been afraid of their power. This goes beyond the matrix of reality. This is something much deeper than that. This is eternal. This is fully realizing your consciousness. This is infinite. This is evolution. This is our divine right.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. This is the Bootsy Greencast, and I'm ecstatic to have another guest for you this not so sunny afternoon, but at least it's warmer here than it is where Dan's at.
You got that right.
Before we get started, I want to praise my sponsors at Content Safe for making this podcast available all over the deepest reaches of the internet, just in case, you can't be too careful these days. Good Lord. People are getting censored by the band hammer left and right. But I'm really, really excited to have Dean Brown today on the podcast. Dean, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
I'm happy to be here, Owen. I'm very honored, as a matter of fact.
That's awesome. Well, Dean's website is mypersonalreality.ca. He's up in Canada. It's a little bit probably colder than it appears on your backdrop, I assume there.
Indeed.
But I really appreciate you taking the time to come and chat with me and tell me a little bit about what you got going on up there.
Awesome. Well, I won't try to lie about the weather. It is cold up here. And I try to use a peaceful background because these green screens, they kind of make it look like you're floating in and out of space, the surreal kind of feeling. So that's an actual Chinese foldable room divider that I have behind me, and I appreciate that.
Very cool.
It keeps people calm and under control, I would think.
That's awesome. Yeah, we have a lot of those trees down here. They're very invasive, actually. So be careful.
Oh, yeah?
Be careful of that backdrop.
If I feel anything on my shoulder, I'll let you know.
That's right. Kudzu just starts wrapping around your. Well, cool. So I see from your website, you've been doing quite a bit of holistic coaching. I think that's awesome. I also am a coach, and I mostly work with mystical kind of stuff. I'm not super woo-woo. I call myself a practical sort of blue collar mystic. But I am into the sort of mysterious elements of the universe, which seem a lot, I think, a lot more complicated than what they are. So I try and boil that kind of stuff down. Let's talk a little bit about what your specialties are. What is it that you tend to focus on?
Well, I have been through enough to know where the truth lies. And the truth does lie in the mystical. That is the bottom line. The quantum field, spiritual truth, the fact that we're here as spiritual beings, we're having a physical experience. There's no way to get around that fact. We're born with two things, my friend: awareness and choice. And those two things, when you boil it down to the truth, they're inescapable and the most powerful two tools you can have. I believe 100% in the universe, as a lot of people call it. If they're in a religious place, they call it God. If they're in a Joe Dispenza place, they call it the quantum field. And if you're in a mystical place, you can have different names for it, but it's all the same thing. It's the power of life. And in that place is our spiritual truth, the thing that gives us life, where there's no judgment and no punishment, just the opportunity to use your awareness and your choices. So I live by that, and I consider that to be the ultimate truth.
I love that. I think that's great. Yeah, that's really, I'm obsessed with this book right now. I'm obsessed with a couple of books, but one in particular, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. It's just fantastic. And the devil says that all you really own is your time and your attention. So
that's right.
With the power of choice, the free will, I think we just overlook the power of free will. Any thoughts about that?
Well, my friend, right now is a perfect example. What we've experienced through 2020 and what we're able to be ready for in 2021 is a perfect example of what free will represents, my friend. When you understand that you do have that choice, all you have to do is dig into your awareness and you're able to make that choice. That's where the core power of free will is. And when we are driven by the external, when we're not given, or we think we're not given a choice, where we're told to do this, go to school, get a job, your parents tell you this, and society tells you that, and all these rules and all these regulations, they're not the truth of free will. They block your free will, and you become, if you so choose, a slave rather than a free individual. And that's the way I look at it, Owen.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with you as well. You know, we have to really be vigilant. That's like a combination word. Vigilant and diligent at the same
There
time.
we go.
But yeah, we do. We have to, we have to be mindful. We have to pay attention and really, I would say, I personally insulate myself from a lot of the stuff that's going on, is supposedly going on out there, because it's like this happened and that happened. Well, you got to be well informed to be a good citizen. Well, you got to be well informed to be a good slave, don't you?
Right. Or well propagandized, at least.
Right. So, no matter what's going on out there, we have our own choices to make, and we can, I think, often let other people's ideas of reality influence our own, or we can decide that we're going to influence it ourselves.
Absolutely. Our spiritual truth is such an easy thing to access. The difference between mindless and mindful is the simple ability to be able to be comfortable with being yourself, being alone with yourself. If you can't be alone with yourself, that's the big sign right there. If you've got to find distractions, ways to not face your own thoughts, your own emotions, your own feelings, then you're in a place where you are denying your own truth, your own self.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that goes into many different parts of our life too, from our personal as well as professional relationships, et cetera, kind of spills on out and over. So it's definitely something to be mindful of and conscious about. And I see, that you have kind of a lot of really cool different sort of specialties that you provide in your coaching. So I'd love to talk a little bit about some of these. Goal setting. You've got relationship coaching, which is something that I am definitely not an expert at, boy. That's something, I mean, I feel like I do a pretty good job with friends, and I'm learning to do better professionally. But as far as, romantic stuff, that's something that has been a difficult thing for me. But if you want to talk maybe a little bit about what your approach is regarding either one of those, maybe we could talk about relationships, since I'm the one who
You brought it up.
Yeah. Brought that up.
Well, if you're aware of yourself and you can love yourself, then you're going to drop judgment as a simple factor or a byproduct of that love for yourself, because you realize that if you're judging others, judging situations, then you're going to judge yourself, and you just covered up the truth. There's no truth in judgment, and it only leads to punishment, just like I mentioned earlier when I was sharing with you all those things. So when it comes to relationships, it starts with the relationship with yourself, Owen. You need to understand what and who you are in order to be able to relate to those people around you. Now, vibrations, that's what emotions are. And everybody has this connection to the spirit. That's how the spirit communicates with us, is through our emotions. It lets us know what's going on with us, with a circumstance, with a situation, with another human being, based on the emotions that we feel. We are not that emotion, but we feel it. So some people say, I am angry. Well, no, you feel anger, right? You can't define yourself to be that. You can only define yourself as yourself. And so in a relationship, as you've asked, is it a relationship with your children? Is it a relationship with your partner? Is it a relationship with your coworker? Is it a relationship with the barista when you go get your cafe latte? What is the relationship we're talking about? And the way to have peace in those relationships is to allow yourself to accept the other person for who they are. You'll never, ever, ever make someone else do something you want them to do. And as soon as you accept that, you're on your way to having a good relationship.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I love that. I'm still working on loving myself. I took a bubble bath this year,
Oh,
one time.
this year.
Yeah, one. It's probably the first one that I had in like 10 years. I got to be honest, though. I don't know what there was more of in the tub, bubbles or giggles, because
There we go.
I was having a good old time. I was blowing the things, and making
Right
little
on. Cool.
statues. I felt
Cool.
like a kid again, it was great. And of
There you
course,
go.
I was squeaky clean and smelling super fresh when I got out. So
Right on.
that was
Right on.
nice. That was a nice little gesture to myself. I'm trying to, obviously, we all have difficulty there. I think we've all experienced a lot through going through school and just being members of society that
Yes.
teaches us to undervalue ourselves and our tools and what we have to offer.
Yeah.
So that's something that for me is definitely something that I'm going to continue, working on. I tend to agree as well. When you're in a position where you can, really appreciate yourself and your own gifts, then it's a lot easier. I really liked what you said. There's no truth in judgment. That is a really, really good little nugget right there. Judgment's always comparative. It's always creating, another book that I'm fascinated with, Reality Transurfing by Vadim Zealand. He talks about how anytime we compare something, we create a lot of what does he call it? Potential, excess potential, which leads to balancing forces, which will ultimately, because of that comparison that we made, saying that we're better, we're worse, there's distortion created in the field of our perspective and the way that we view reality. And at that point, nature has no choice but to create the differential there, and then or take the differential of that distortion and balance. So
you used an interesting word when you used the word create, and I don't think that people realize how much they create on a day-by-day basis. Everybody on this planet has created the spot they're in by their choices they've made up to this point. And to be caught in the past or to be focused, almost obsessed on the future, either one of those is locking yourself away from the now. And the now is where everything happens. So I beg to ask anybody that's listening, try to do something in the past. Try to do something in the future. Try to do something now and find where the truth is. And when you're in that place, you come to understand that you are the master of your ability to manifest by the choices you make. And it falls back to that awareness thing again, my friend. If you are aware of that, then you can make a different choice, right? And when we start to realize the choices we make actually manifest our present as we go forward, that is the big click that everybody should be aware of. Like if you're going through a day and you're like, oh, I can't do this, I don't want to do that, I hate this, I don't want to bump into so-and-so, I dread this, and so on and so forth. All these different mantras that you talk yourself into that are all based on external experiences. They're not, it's got nothing to do with the internal, right? Or even worse, they say, I'll be happy when, right? You're denying your own self so deeply and so completely. And to create that on purpose is the thing that I see over and over again. So many people are not happy with what they've created, and they don't even realize they've created it, which means, that they have the ability to create it, but they're not aware that they have done so. So they keep creating it wrong, right? And it just blows my head out. Most of my clients are in that place. And when I make it as simple as that, they go, wait, all you got to do is flip it over and think from the other side. And that's as simple as it really is right there.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Yeah, put yourself at the cause, And you were saying you almost said masters of reality, I felt like, and I was about to be like, Sabbath, bro. Yeah.
I love Black Sabbath.
Absolutely.
I'm there with you, man.
Yeah, man. I'm like, yeah, let's rip. Well, let's talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about stress elimination. It says that, you have some insight to that. That's something that I personally have. We were talking a little bit before the call. You're like, what are your days off? And I'm like, I don't take days off. You're like, oh, you're a real entrepreneur. Yeah. Like the entrepreneurs that complain about a 40-hour-a-week job and then work 80 so that they could have their own thing. And yeah, I mean, there's an element of truth to that, but there's also for me personally, is I am super passionate about what I do. So that does spill over, but of course I do need to have healthy boundaries, and I do need to learn how to reduce stress, because I used to use drugs and alcohol for that, and I gave that up. And so like now I just work more.
With happiness.
And I am overall pretty happy, but I do need to, learn to rest and learn to relax. So I would love to hear some insight, if you don't mind, about that.
Not at all.
This has turned into a session for me. It's like not even a podcast. I'm loving it though. Thank you so much, Dean.
Well, stress is something we create ourselves, like I was mentioning earlier about what we create, right? And we create that through choices, through judgment of the external, right? Through judgment of ourselves. I mean, many people, when they go to bed at night, what are they thinking about what they've done, what they've been, how they've acted through their day? Are they accusing themselves of having been, I did this terribly and I sucked at that, and so on and so forth? This is the source of stress. This is the place where you lie to yourself the deepest, because you're alone in bed getting ready to sleep and you're telling yourself all this crap. You're not celebrating your wins. So if you're in a place where you could tell yourself, wow, I might have missed that, but I slammed that, right? And I got this really good, even though I didn't really finish it. What I did do was great. So give yourself a break, man. You have permission to give yourself a couple of W's in the game, right? And this is how people get to that place where the next day when they wake up, they're already stressed, because they didn't give themselves any breaks, any opportunity to give themselves permission to say, hey, I'm not that bad. I did okay. And if you're starting to believe what other people are saying, then you're really letting it, you're really choosing stress. So when I'm dealing with someone that is in a stressful place, just so you know, I'm a suicide prevention mentor for a large Facebook men's group, because I've attempted it myself twice. And the universe delivered me with one person each time. And I was in that place where I was trying to live my life based on what society told me to do. I was, my dad beat me when I was younger. My mom was sent away for alcoholism when I was 3, and we reunited when I was 14. And because I didn't know how to have a mom, I didn't treat her properly, and she told me to go away till I could treat her like a mom. And so I went away, and I, like you mentioned, drugs and alcohol and crime. I just beat the hell out of myself, looking in the mirror. Do I deserve this? Who am I? What am I? And so I understand stress. I've been there, right? And that's where I came to that point of understanding that, wait a second, the universe has delivered me twice. The first time it was a person I didn't know. The second time I chose that I was really going to make it happen. And I was going to go to a place where no one could find me, but I had to say goodbye to my kids first. And the universe kept one of my kids away so that I couldn't do that. And to this day, that daughter of mine is so thankful that she didn't show up, because they all still have their dad, right? And for us to be in that place and not make a choice to improve yourself is the core of stress. When you can get down so low, this is what most people end up doing, is getting so low that stress is their only understanding. You embrace hate, you embrace impatience, you embrace judgment, you want to be punished, you want to punish others, because you're not allowing yourself to accept who you are. And remember, I mentioned, give yourself permission to celebrate who you are, because that's the key factor right there. So if you want to eliminate stress, I teach what's called the stimulus response gap. So in that, if you're given an external stimulus or even an internal stimulus, and you approach it, you got 0.6 of a second before you respond. That's your instinctive time frame. Like, I hear the tree rustles, somebody says something, I see this individual. We normally on an average got about a 0.6 of a second before we respond. And then it's the old patterns that step into place, those things that society taught us, that our parents taught us, that school taught us, right? Do you fight or flight or freeze? What is it going to be? And we don't need that anymore. What we need is compassion and understanding, and the opportunity to be aware and make a choice. So I invite people all the time. That 0.6 of a second is instinct. You haven't made a choice. You've fallen back on the old program. Make a new choice. Expand that time framing. Make that 0.6 of a second 6 seconds. Make it 60 seconds. There's nothing that says you have to answer right away, respond right away. This is your chance to be who you are. Embrace it and live it, and be real with yourself so that you can be real with the circumstance. So expand that as long as you need to come into connection with yourself to know, wait a second, the last time I did this, I turned out to be a real a-hole. And I'm not going to do it again because I know that I've been doing this for 10, 20, 30 years. And I've already told myself how many times I want to change it. This is my chance. This is my chance to change that. And when you come to that awareness and make that choice, and you do change it, you do embrace that change, the stress level comes down because, wait a second, I just created something new. I just created something that isn't, that standard pattern, that thing that was embracing hate or guilt or doubt. And I've just changed everything with that decision. Because what you've done is you've broken the pattern. And that's the way to reduce and relieve and eliminate stress, one step at a time. You're not going to do everything all at once.
Right.
Right. But like someone a mentor of mine says, we may not have it all together, but together we have it all. And this is where the opportunity to reach out for help comes in. If you're not sure what to do, ask for help. Don't try to believe that you can do it all alone. If you could do it all alone, you'd already be a success at it. You wouldn't have the stress, right? So how does that answer your question, my friend?
Oh, definitely a lot. And I love that you're a suicide prevention counselor. I would love to talk a little bit about your story if it's not too, if I'm not being presumptuous,
No.
because I think that's I think that's a beautiful gift to give. I think a lot of people are really having a hard time right now with everything that's going on with the economy and such the way that it is. So my heart goes out specifically to people who are in dire times with difficult circumstances.
Yes.
And I want to try and give as much as I possibly can to people who, I'll maybe begin with this. Like, when you're in a state like that, what is it? What is the most valuable thing that someone can give you if you're in a place where you're at rock bottom and you just don't know what else to do? Like, how would you begin that process? If I came to you and I said, you know what, man, I just can't go on anymore, what would you say to me?
The first thing I would say is, someone out there loves you. That's the first thing I would say. I know someone out there loves you, and so do you. Well, let's move from that spot. What is it that's on your mind? How are you feeling right now? Share it with me. And trust me, when I tell someone that, the ability to make the choice of sharing that, they start talking about it. They start actually becoming aware of what it is that they're thinking and feeling. And they start to realize, wait a second, this is too extreme. I don't need to be here, right? I've got someone that's listening. And it's always been that one person that listened at the right time. And I already told you, one person twice, right? It just takes that one person to listen, to be there, to realize that, wait a second, that person needs my help. And to be of a compassionate soul enough to know that, hey, my life ain't so busy that I can't stop and help somebody, right? We have the ability to do that. All of us do. Mm-hmm. And we all have the responsibility to do that because we're all brothers and sisters. We're all from the same ilk. We are one. And to let someone go down that path and not turn to help them is not the answer. The answer is to stop your life because you're going to save one. And it's a powerful thing when you have that opportunity, because that when they talk about it, it doesn't matter how bad it is. I've had people say, well, here's something for you. I used to be also a volunteer in a medium security prison here in Canada, where I would go in once or twice a week to do spiritual studies and as well as pre-release counseling. And I've been in a room with a group of men alone as a volunteer, where these guys had killed their mother, killed their family, robbed, murdered. All of them had been in a place of attempted suicide at one point or another, wanting to do that. They were in the suicide watch inside the prison, all these different things. And every one of them knew someone loved them, but wasn't being given the chance to be loved. And that's the difference in our lives, is if we can be in that place where we can show that love, even if for a stranger, just, I've been homeless, so I know what it's like to be homeless. So anytime as a security supervisor, which is something I just quit recently because I was given orders that went against my integrity, I said, I won't do that. One of the things I was always told to do was get rid of that homeless person from the front door. of the building where I worked. And I would say, I will go talk to that homeless person because I've been homeless before, you'll not tell me how to handle it. I will choose how to handle it. You don't get to tell me that. If you want to go do that to that homeless person, you go do that to that homeless person, but I won't. I'll go support them. I'll go sit with them and talk with them. We're on camera. I'm safe. The person's not going to attack me, right? So I've been in that place where I've experienced almost every hell that society can create, and I'm here to share that love is the answer. Spiritual love with yourself, spiritual love with your brothers and sisters. No judgment, because judgment is where it all turns black, right? And the sad part is, because judgment is what it is, that's where the punishment, the thoughts of punishment, self-punishment, right? I'm not a good person. Nobody loves me, so I'm going to end it. And it's a dark place, my friend, and it's painful, and it takes time to come through that. But when I'm in a position where I can have someone reach out to me and say, man, I'm thinking about ending it. I've got a wife, I've got a young son that hasn't born yet, but I don't want to do this anymore. And when I can look on Facebook and I can see the guy holding his son now, powerful, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Powerful.
Very.
There is nothing more precious than knowing that that little boy has his dad, right? So powerful, my friend. And all we have to do is have a compassionate heart and step forward and say, brother, what is it I can do? Just let me sit here and be with you, right? On the phone. Like, I've had so many people call up because of this mentorship and say, man, I just need someone to talk to. And it's like, I was crawling into bed and I'd already worked late, but I don't care. I'll stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning with you, man. I don't care. Are you close enough you can come by? Can you get here? Right? Because I didn't have the legal right to go to them, but I can't stop them from coming to me. Right? So it's just like the power in that, of the truth of our ability to pick people up, to actually save a life. I've never been, I applied for the military, but I've never been a soldier. And I've been in a place where, when I was committing crimes and stuff as a young person, I was a collector for a drug dealer. And I actually got to the place where I enjoyed hurting other people, but I never killed anybody. I never forced anybody to do anything as far as like raping a woman or anything like that goes. I always gave them the choice, lots of them. Like, which hospital do you want to wake up in?
Wow.
Right. Right. But they knew they were going to wake up. Right. And like, the reason I say that is, I'm not trying to sound tough, but when I was 11 years old, I came home on my way home from school. I got beat up by 3 native boys. And my dad was the mayor. He was a World War II fighter pilot. And I went crying to my dad that I just got beat up by 3 boys. And he beat me because there was only 3. So that turned me into a bit of a monster. And when I was 13, I found out that the person that was on the couch that I thought was my mother wasn't my mother. My dad had remarried when I didn't know, and passed off my stepmother as my real mother. And I came close to murdering her out of rage and anger. So I've been in those places that are hard and dark, right? And I'm here now to say I love you, as you, Owen, as a brother. I love you, man, because that is the thing that keeps us together on a positive note. This is the thing that heals those dark places in ourselves. So I know I rambled on there a bit, but it's a tight subject. It's a powerful subject, and it's something that you can't really get a message across in a sentence. You've really got to, go deep and let people know the truth of it. So I hope that answered your question, my friend.
Oh, more than. Yeah. And I appreciate you, because I know I put you on the spot a little bit, and I didn't mean necessarily to do that, but it was quite an answer. And I really do appreciate you sharing that much, because like I said, we are against the backdrop of a dumpster fire here. So there's a lot of people, I think, that are losing hope when we look at the external world. And so I think, I would like to be as well equipped to help anybody who needs help, to help them, look within and see the light that's inside, and hopefully, bring them up and help them get, to a better place.
We all do, brother. We just have to realize we have that love within us, and let it out, man. Just let it out. Let it be you.
That's
we all
awesome.
have it. We
That's
all have it.
awesome. No, that's beautiful. I really appreciate you sharing that. And I know that, and you seem like, even though, you know, you have gone through a lot in your life, like you're just in such a positive place. And I think that's beautiful to be able to go through so many traumatic experiences such as you have. Can you talk a little bit about those processes and how you came through to the other
Yes.
side?
Yes. Well, it all falls down on when I was younger. My dad owned a hotel in a small town. It was where everybody went to drink all the time. And I actually had a bedroom above the bar. And every night when I was falling asleep, I could smell the smoke. I could hear the men drinking. I could hear them fighting. And it was one of those where it was hard to fall asleep around that. It was an older building and the walls were not that thick. And that was where I was put to go to sleep. And without realizing it, I taught myself to meditate. And how I did that was, this is the first thing that became the most powerful thing for me, was I was in a place where I thought, okay, I have to go inside in a positive way. I have to allow my mind to be me. So what I did was, you know how your mind wanders and it goes from thought to thought to thought to thought? What I did was I chose a time, a spot, and I said, okay, let your mind go. And I let my mind go from this to that, to this to that, for a count of 20 transitions. And then after the 20th, I mentally chose, okay, that's 20. Now stop and go back to the original thought. Try that sometime, my friend. Try going back 2 or 3 thoughts, let alone 20, to see how you got there, right? Now, I was able to do this on a regular basis as an 11, 12-year-old. And I never came to an awareness of that until I started meditating again later on after my attempted suicides, where I thought to myself, okay, I have to get rid of this mindless fuzz, this brain that is just scattered like a monkey. And that's where I got a hair in my eye. I think it might be because I'm being a little emotional.
Dude, it's a misty-eyed conversation. Don't feel self-conscious, please.
I always say my eyes are sweating, right?
Exactly.
Because I'm in that place where I can connect with the truth of who I am, what I've done, where I've been. And the fact that I'm here now with you is the reason I knew this was going to happen. As soon as I was saved that second time, I knew that was going to happen. And the processes that I went through where they were numerous and they were all internal. So the biggest one that I had a recurring nightmare. And they say that recurring nightmares are one of the biggest signs that you've got a serious mental problem, right? So that recurring nightmare went on for ages. And each night it was exactly the same thing. I would try to run fast, but I couldn't move. I would try to, look back, but I couldn't turn my head. I would try to see what was back there, but it was just a big dark blob that was chasing me. And I was always at the height of terror, thinking that if it catches me, I'm done. If it catches me, I've got to get away. I've got to get away. And I would hide behind a rock and then wait. And then it just starting to seep over the top of the rock. And then I would just look up in time to see it. And then I'd wake up. And it was like each time I had that dream, it was getting closer and closer and closer. And then as I got older and got caught up with society and school and all that, I stopped having the dream. But that psychosis never went away. And because I covered it up with anger and hate and violence and fighting and all these things that my dad beat into me because I was a rebel. And I mean, it used to take 3 babysitters to watch me when I was 4 years old. That's how much of an animal I was. And about 3 years ago, I was in my coaching. I was being coached. I was paying big money to be coached. And the process had me with an actual script of this is what you need to do to become more familiar with yourself. And I knew I wanted to be a coach, so I was also developing things as I went for my own content. And one night I was going through my routine, and it was always one of those where search yourself, search yourself, search yourself. And all of a sudden that dream came back, and I was ready. And of course, my wife was sleeping. My office is in my room. My wife was sleeping at the time. And I stood up and I turned around, then I faced that demon and I shouted out, we're getting down and dirty tonight, brother. This is happening. Are you ready for this? Because I was ready. And I started shouting, and for what seemed like 40 seconds, Owen, lasted 40 minutes. And it just seemed like I just attacked that darkness in myself and ripped away the shield, ripped away the shroud to find me standing there. I had been afraid of my spiritual self that whole time. It was my spiritual self that was trying to connect with me that I didn't recognize and that I was afraid of because I was so messed up internally and externally. And my spirit was trying to connect, saying, hey, man, I got some love for you. But I was so afraid of love because I had been taught hate and violence and all those other things. And when I came to that place, the peace that came over me, the love that embraced me. Now, I'm a big fan of the Hulk. You know who the Hulk is?
Oh yeah, I'm aware.
Yeah. And every time I would get into a fight, I would envision myself, the angrier I got, the stronger I got. And I would just invite more people to show up because I'm ready. And I would cause pain and I would win just out of sheer desperation. And my alter ego was the Hulk. That spiritual thing right there that I was just telling you about, when I get into a place of stress now and I actually am not able to manage it, I just close my eyes and I feel that great, big, powerful green hand rest its hand on my shoulder and say, I got you, brother. I got you, brother. Because there's nothing more powerful than our spirit. And this is the connection that I made. And this is the connection that I live in now. So the process is internal. It's different for everybody, my friend.
Sure.
Right? You can say there's a script for it, but it's all about uncovering your true self. Right? And I hope that answers your question because that is how it happened to me, man.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's an amazing story. And it seems like, even before you came along on your path to healing, that you were tapping into something. I mean,
yeah.
During those times of anger and fighting and those types of things, you were still reaching out spiritually and pulling something out of the ether.
Oh, yeah.
It was just scary as hell.
You got that right, because I didn't understand it, right? I was actually refusing to accept what it was. So it was scary, man. It was.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow. Well, I really appreciate you sharing that. That's incredibly powerful. And I can only imagine how much difference that you're making with folks as a result of being able to draw upon those experiences. Would you say that some of the experiences like that have led you to basically come down this road of coaching and giving back? Do you think that's what has basically led you down your path? Is it the negative things that you faced in the past?
100%, because all those times, everywhere I went, I became the best at what I did, but I did it with like forcefulness. I didn't do it with peace and love. And now that I've come through that and I can face myself and realize that I have a great power, and it has nothing to do with forcing anybody. It has everything to do with loving myself and sharing that love, because love is the highest vibration. It's the most powerful emotion. It is the force that binds life together. And when you can share that, you can change people, because it changed me. So the things that I went through that changed me are the things that I embrace when I try to help someone else understand that that's how they're going to change themselves. Now, is it going to be the same for them? No, because everybody has a different story. Right. Everybody has a different background. Everybody's their own unique soul. The truth never changes, being that love is the answer, right? I mean, John Lennon had it right. And someone couldn't handle that message and we know the story. And this is the conundrum of society today, is that there's so many people out there in that dark place that sometimes when they hear that message of love, it drives them mad, because it forces them to face themselves. And they're so deeply ingrained in that denial of self, right? There's so much guilt. There's so many things they've done wrong. Another big fan, I'm getting my tongue cut around my eye teeth and I can't see what I'm saying.
That's fine.
I'm a big fan of Ghost Rider.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because of what he does. He gives that penance stare and he makes the person face what they've done. And this is one of the things that I was able to do. And trust me, my friend, I did not do it alone. I had lots of help. I had many coaches. I had a suppressed, do we have time for me to share a suppressed memory exposure?
I would love to. Absolutely.
Okay. So when my mother was taken away from me at 3 because my dad owned a hotel and he was the mayor, my mother became an alcoholic, and that's why she was taken away at 3. I only have one memory of her, and it was when I was hit by a car when those 3 babysitters couldn't handle me. And it was actually a drunk driver that hit me with his car. So there's a lot of irony in this. But when I was 3, I did something that I suppressed. I had a memory that I suppressed until I was ruined my marriage at the age of 30, and had been in a place of violence and anger. And I knew it was me. And I went to a psychotherapist because it was part of my benefits for where I worked. And this was a good psychologist. I was ready for the trip, but she was the conductor in a big way. And she later on said, I've never seen anybody so driven to come up with their own answers and expose their own truth. When I exposed that suppressed memory, I went blind. I literally went blind from the power that was released, that energy that I had used to cover everything up in darkness. I actually went blind, and I had to reach out to say, I'm falling. I'm in a void. I'm dying. I'm like, I can't see you. And the psychiatrist held my hand, and she says, you almost broke my hand in the desperation that you held on, because it looked like you were going to fall through the floor, right? And I actually was terrified. And then I had the memory. When that darkness lifted, before my vision came back, the only thing I could see was me creating that suppressed memory. And it was this. And you're going to be one of the first people I've shared this with on a podcast.
Wow.
I was, as a 3-year-old, in the basement of that hotel, this century-old building, where there was an abandoned furnace that hadn't been used in decades, around all kinds of different rat skeletons, because rats had gone there to die. It was a dugout basement, so I was sitting in the dirt amongst a bunch of dead animals, and I was all curled up in a ball as a 3-year-old, asking what I did to make my mother go away. What was it that I did, Mommy? Why did you leave? And that was the memory I suppressed.
Wow.
So when I came out of that, it was so powerful and so dramatic that it led me on the beginnings. Now that happened when I was 30. I'm 56 now. I'm going to be 57 in a couple of days. That was a long time ago, and I had a long way to go. But I did it. I exposed that part of myself that was the worst, most deepest, darkest part of me. And that's how it's done. If you can't expose the part of you that's the darkest and the deepest, you're not going to make any progress. And it can be done. You just have to seek help. Ask for help. Please, anybody that's out there that's listening to this and you're struggling, by all means, ask anybody for help. And there's going to be people that don't help you. Trust me when I say that, my friends. But Owen, you'll believe me when I tell you that there is somebody that will help. And those poor souls that don't get the help, those are the ones that actually committed, right? How many people were saved from jumping over the bridge by that one person that showed up? Myself as an example. It wasn't a bridge, it was car exhaust fumes. But nonetheless, powerful, my friend. Super, super powerful.
Very powerful. Yeah, it reminds me of a little bit of It's a Wonderful Life. I watch that that movie usually every Christmas time.
Right.
I mean, it's a guy who comes to his wit's end, but when he comes back to it, look at the impact that he actually had on people. It's drastic. It's amazing. And so I know that that's definitely true in your case. I mean,
You're right.
It's like had you gone through with that, think of how, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
That's right, brother. That's right.
And that is inspiring to me, and hopefully to anybody else who's listening to this show or watching it, that they take a little bit of stock, give themselves maybe a little bit of appreciation for, not sinking down all the way to the bottom, rock bottom's fine, like
But there's more.
don't go less than that. Don't sink
Right.
to the floor. And that makes such a big difference, just one little thing, being able to help somebody else could absolutely it could change the world. I mean, it really could. And I'm really blown away, and I just appreciate you, Dean, for sharing your story with me, because it's incredibly impactful.
Thanks for having the courage to ask, Owen,
Yeah.
because I have the courage to share. I just needed to be asked.
Yeah, it's I mean, yeah, when I first did, I was like, well, maybe I'm putting them on the spot a little bit, but ultimately, that's it's worth it. If it's
It
worth it.
is.
Yeah.
It is. It is. I know that it was probably difficult for certain listeners to hear, certain viewers to watch, but the truth can't be denied. We are a product of our environment, a product of our upbringing, but we are ultimately a product of our own spiritual self
Mm-hmm.
and what we do with that. And when you can embrace that spiritual love, the purpose that we have as an individual, you see, as a spiritual being having a physical experience, we're two ends of the same stick. We're the contrast and the purity, right? And that's why we're here. We're to have the experience so we know the difference and we can appreciate the truth of the purity of spirituality. So because that contrast gives us the contrast so that we can say, hey man, I don't like this anymore, because now I really appreciate the spiritual part of who I am and what I'm meant to be. And that's why we're here. We're here to have that experience. And the deeper you have that experience, the more powerful you become afterwards.
Wow. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. And it's a step-by-step process. So, be easy with yourself, gradually wade in. You don't have to jump into to those, dark memories. Don't, you can start there, but start with a little bit of appreciation, start with a little bit of exploration, ask for help. I love that. I mean, I I have no problem asking for help. I ask for help all the time.
Good.
The problem is there's nobody around here to, but no, I do. I have a vast network of people, and that's really where I find, the most power is within a group, within a group of people. And I'm very much a group type of person. I know there's
Good.
a lot of people who are very, very independent and strong-willed, and I applaud that. But no person is an island.
That's right.
So don't be afraid, and don't be embarrassed, because we all need help, and nobody can do it alone. We're just not made to. Nobody is.
No,
So,
no. And you mentioned something right there, Owen. You mentioned a key word: don't be embarrassed. Because as men, right, which is the people I serve are men, dads and professional men. That's who I serve. And the reason for that is because men are given a short stick these days. They're given a short rope, and they're expected to change the world with it. They're the breadwinner, the dad figure, the big businessman, all these different things, right? No emotion, be powerful, be strong, be the protector, all that stuff. You can do that without being harsh. You can do that without being violent. You can do that with love. And this is the part that's being left out, right? Because you become a slave to the lack of that. You become a slave to all of those things that you use to bury that. And it's powerful when we start to uncover everything and become our true self, and give ourselves permission to do that. Mm-hmm. Right? Because first of all, you have to ask for the help, and sometimes you have to give yourself permission to ask for that help. And by all means, like you mentioned, please don't be embarrassed. Step up. A real man is someone that is willing to say, hey, man, I'm not sure what to do. I've got a problem and I don't know how to fix it. Help me. That's what a real man does.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially this day and age, I think, we need help. We always have, but we need help, and we need to allow ourselves to ask for that help. There's that stigma of being strong and having that idea of what masculinity is.
Macho.
Absolutely, but that's mostly an illusion anyway.
Absolutely.
So it's okay. We all need help. It's not your fault that we're that whatever happened to you. And ask, reach out. I'm amazed at how many people sometimes that don't reach out. Right. I think a lot of people assume, oh, they're busy, this, that, or the other. And then I think the same thing about other people that I look up to and admire. And then I'll send them an email and they'll respond right back. I'm like, what? So-and-so, he just responded right back to me. That's amazing.
Right.
reach out. Yeah. And people want to help you,
Yeah.
people want to help. They enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially if they're in a position to be able to, right? And obviously not everybody is, and that's okay too. But
That's a choice. That's a choice. So, and sometimes it's because you haven't had that opportunity to help yourself. So you're not
Right.
ready to help anybody else. You're
That's
not in
right.
that place.
That's right. It takes time to get there. We have to be able to help ourselves. We have to become independent before we can be interdependent. And it's taken me a long time to get to that independence. I was codependent, to a fault for a long, long time, because like I said, I like being part of a group. I want to be recognized as part of a group and collaborate with people. But what that did in the past for me was I eroded my boundaries and gave too much and opened myself up to being hurt and taken advantage of. So I had to learn the hard way because I'm stubborn.
Right. Yeah. Most of us are, right?
Right. And then, but over time I've been able to become more independent. And at that point, you can begin to serve and be healthy and be a little bit more interdependent. And it's okay. Yeah. There's no rush. You don't have to get there tomorrow. There's plenty of time. Like you were talking about at the top of the episode, give yourself a break, give yourself a little bit of appreciation. What's one thing that you did that you can kind of relish in, give yourself a little bit of a pat on the back. That's a good thing. My friend Scott was telling me, Scotty, that he was working with someone and they told him to look himself in the mirror and say one thing that he appreciated about himself every single day, which is like a really hard thing to do if you try, right. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's important. It's so easy for us to tell somebody else what we appreciate about them and see the good in them.
Yeah.
But we need to allow ourselves to do it for us as well. So
that's right. That's right.
Really
and another good thing is to tell yourself positive things before you get out of bed. Right. As well as after you get into bed. Mm-hmm. So start getting into bed with positive and get out of bed with positive. A lot of people dread the day when their eyes open up and it's not, oh no, I got to do this. And I hate doing that and blah, blah. And you set yourself up for more of the same, right? Give yourself that permission to be positive and start with the positive. So powerful.
Yeah. At the beginning of the pandemic in last March, I would wake up and just like start looking at Twitter. And I was like, after a month of that, it like completely wrecked me, man. So I had to establish a morning routine, and it's been really helpful. It was something that I was like, I'm a creative. I don't need a morning routine for like a while. But even if that's just 2 minutes of allowing yourself to be positive, focusing on, good feelings in your body, writing a couple things, a short meditation, whatever that is, just start with a little bit of something so that you can have the be at the cause of your day. I've found it's been really, really helpful, for me personally.
And that's perfect recipe right there, Owen. Everybody just needs to embrace the thing that they'll allow themselves to do to be positive. That's all it takes.
Yeah, and it doesn't take long. It takes a couple of minutes.
That's it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to hurt either.
Right. In fact, it should be. Well, Dean, thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate your willingness and your courage to share. Thank you so much. I hope it's contagious to everybody out there. Mm-hmm. And if anybody out there needs some help, you want a little bit of encouragement, attention, appreciation, reach out to me, reach out to Dean, mypersonalreality.ca. I will put all your links in the show notes as well, Dean. Is there anything else that you would like to let people know how they can find you better?
If they want to reach out to me directly, my email is coachdean@mypersonalreality.ca. And of course, you've got all my other links. The Linktree one is the one that gives them access to all my social media and all that sort of stuff. So it's an opportunity for everybody to reach to there's assessments in there if they want my coaching, and there's an opportunity to reach me at every level. So if you need help, I'm here to help.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. I'll definitely put all those links in the show notes. I have all your whole link tree, every branch, every single one of those will be linked in the show notes. And yeah, thanks everybody so much for listening to this episode. And you all can find me at bootsygreenwood.com. Shoot me a message. There's a page there that says "hit me up!" ! And I mean the exclamation point. So hit me up. I appreciate it. Thanks everybody for tuning in to the show. And thank you so much, Dean. And I will be speaking with you soon.
Loved it.